fine. I just gotta stay in this theater that I rented for an indefinite period of time. This is fine. I just need to... Okay, you know what? I changed my mind. This is not fine. This is not fine. I am already running low on food, and I'm alone in an abandoned theater doing God knows... Theater for over 2 goddamn months now. I am actively losing my...
It needs little introduction. Whether you're watching this now or years in the future, you will likely know about the coronavirus pandemic of 2019 and 2020. It began in a wet market in Wuhan, China, from where it rapidly spread. I'll be going into this topic assuming you already know most of the details of the virus and its spread. If you somehow don't, I've left some links in the description for you to get up to speed. In case you're wondering why I'm not wearing a mask of some kind, it's because trying to fit a mask designed for a human face on a mutated country ball is surprisingly hard, so for now, we'll just have to settle for a good old pair of aviators. Now join me as we take a trip through the hellish reality we now find ourselves in to explore the pointless controversies, the media bullshit, and of course, memes. Celebrities. They're the most talented among us, supposedly. The elite in our society. The upper echelons of greatness. Those idols that we worship in place of the gods who have long ago forsaken us. Wait. No, stop. Okay, whatever.
If you try.
No hell below us.
Above us only sky.
Imagine all the people
Living for today. Yeah.
Yeah, there's only so much torture I'm willing to put you, and indeed myself, through, but yeah. The first story of the day is this. Some lady named Gal Gadot got together a bunch of celebrities to create a terrible rendition of John Lennon's Imagine. Entirely setting aside the piss-poor performance, can you imagine the absolute gall of these inane dumbasses to sing a song about having no possessions while they record themselves with their new iPhones in their multi-million-dollar mansions? Look, I'm not religious, but I have the tact not to talk about there being no heaven when millions of struggling people are in serious danger of kicking the bucket.
Maybe don't sing like, imagine there's no heaven when a hilarious amount of old people are dropping like flies. I'm not really sure if your Catholic granny is gonna be all too comforted by the thought of an infinite perilous darkness that is, completely inescapable. It's probably the last thing she wants to hear as she's shambling to her hospital bed.
Onwards from one bit of idiocy to the next. Now, if the 1940s gave us Murphy's Law, then the 2010s gave us what I think we can call, for lack of a better name, Sarkeesian's Law. And that's that no matter what you say, someone, somewhere, will be offended by it. And unfortunately, it appears that will carry on into the 2020s. A lot of people have been calling this the Wuhan virus, or the Chinese virus, or in a more joking manner, Kung Flu. You'd think this is perfectly normal, after all this virus did originate in Wuhan, China. But nope, apparently stating a geographic fact is, you guessed it folks, racist.
There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country.
Yes, because quote-unquote incidents of bias have never been fabricated or exaggerated for political reasons. Nope. Never. Look, call me cynical, call me a denier, call me whatever the hell you want, but I call absolute bullshit on this. Is it possible that there are some isolated incidents of knobheads actually being racist towards Asians? Yeah, probably, but it isn't racist to state an objective fact.
Why do you keep using this? A lot of
it
people
comes
say
from
it's
China.
racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China.
The 1918 flu pandemic is better known by the name of Spanish flu. Was there more anti-Spanish discrimination because of that? No, because guess what? We aren't all retarded.
Do you think using the term Chinese virus, that puts Asian Americans at risk, that people might
No, not
target
at all.
them?
No, not at all. I think they probably would agree with it 100%. It comes from China. There's nothing not to agree. Okay, how about last question?
I can't help but nod along and agree with Trump's response here. It's a dumb question that deserves to be brushed off as such. I just love how these self-important bastards feel that it's their duty to be America's moral compass and to shield us ignorant people. They think you are stupid. They think I am stupid. They think we are all stupid. They think we cannot figure out for ourselves that calling something a Chinese virus isn't a statement of ethnic origin which should lead to racial discrimination. Therefore, they think it is their job to protect the ignorant masses. Do you know what kind of mentality that is? That is the mentality you take towards babies and dogs. Before we move on, think about that. Alright, now let's move on. Exploitation of tragedies for political gain is something I've talked about before at length, and it is something that's relevant once more with this relief bill. Now, if you've been living under a rock and don't know what I'm talking about, Congress, in response to so many people being temporarily out of work, passed a bill which would help keep the economy afloat. And if you want more information about that, I'll leave some links, because I'm not so much here to talk about the bill itself as the hijinks surrounding it. Apparently, Nancy Pelosi's proposed stimulus bill mentioned diversity 32 times, and one section of her bill reportedly would have created a congressional committee requiring any corporation that receives aid from this bill to give quote-unquote diversity data to Congress, which would then be published the next year. This is among other things such as voting down another proposed bill because it didn't do enough to increase fuel emission standards for the airline industry, and a section in Pelosi's bill which would, quote, ensure that corporate boards reflect the diversity and perspectives of the communities and consumers impacted by the hardships due to the disease. Now tell me, what in the ever-loving fuck do diversity, inclusion, and fuel emission standards have to do with a global pandemic? And of course there's all the standard shit of blaming Donald Trump for this, even though it can be argued that the impeachment, which was still going on in January and early February, severely hampered the administration's ability to deal with this in the early stages. But no, it's Donald Trump's fault for dealing with this poorly, because honestly, what isn't his fault at this point? Trump supporters like to joke that if Trump came out in favor of oxygen, his opponents would hold their breaths. I myself am not a Trump supporter, but honestly, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment. Here's another fun one. Apparently, several media outlets have stopped airing Donald Trump's press conferences, and there's a push for more news organizations to do the same. They are trying to deplatform the fucking president. I talked a little bit about this on Twitter, which you should follow by the way, and join the Discord link in the description, but the only thing that this will achieve is giving Donald Trump an even stronger and less contested voice. Let me explain. Quick, to the board! People watch Trump's press conferences because they want to. Seems obvious enough, but just bear with me here because I'll get back to that in a second. With all of these predominantly left-wing media outlets refusing to air these press conferences, what ends up happening is that many viewers will migrate to right-wing media that has no problem airing them and won't give him any strong pushback or challenging questions. This is yet another demonstration of what I talked about earlier with the media thinking we're dumb fucks who exist for the sole purpose of their condescension and money grubbing. If I, a 15-year-old, can figure this out, then surely college-educated journalists can too. Which then leads me to the conclusion that they think we watch the press conferences because we watch the news outlets that air them, and not because of the contents of the press conferences themselves. The logical conclusion from that line of reasoning is that these media outlets think we have any loyalty to them whatsoever. We don't. I myself don't watch these press conferences because, quite frankly, they're boring to me and I have better things to be doing with my time. However, I absolutely understand why so many people are watching them. I mean, Fox News is getting upwards of 100,000 viewers every day on every YouTube stream of these press conferences, which, for mainstream media on YouTube, is massive numbers. And there is one prevailing reason for this. People are scared. When I was younger, my grandfather, an immigrant from the USSR, told me about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he told me that in any crisis, there will be shortages of two things: salt and toiletries. He wasn't too far off. While this isn't the USSR and we do still have salt, we sure as hell don't have toiletries. Across the country, stores are empty of hand sanitizer, masks, and of course, toilet paper.
Video has emerged of an alarming scene in a Sydney supermarket of two women coming to blows in an argument over the right to buy multiple packets of toilet tissue.
I have to wonder what the reasoning is behind this toilet paper rush. How often do you need to wipe your ass? Why is toilet paper, of all things, the hottest commodity on the market all of a sudden? I don't have the answers to these and other such burning questions, but I can make an observation here about the herd mentality of the general public. When one of a pack of bison or antelope gets frightened and starts running away, this often causes the rest of the herd to also start running. This is how stampedes begin, and it's awfully similar to what's happening with these shortages. Some people start talking about potential shortages because of the pandemic, so a few people begin to stockpile for that event, thus beginning a chain reaction of panic buying, ironically only hastening, worsening, and prolonging said shortage. And this is where I'll get to my main point. This virus and the response to it by both the government and the general public has revealed how truly broken our society is. I tend to believe that crises are among the best ways to test who a person really is, and this is the perfect example. This chaos has stripped off the thin layer of civility that we all wear and shown us for what we truly are. It has shown the utterly debilitated state of our society. It has revealed for each and every one of us our true character. Personally, I grew up in a family of refugees from the Soviet Union, and I'm the first in my family to be born in America, and so grew up on stories of fleeing the Nazis in the Second World War, famines, repression, and all sorts of other horrible travesties. So to me this virus seems relatively insignificant compared to all of that, and I suppose to the rest of my family as well. But to the general public this is basically an apocalypse. We so easily forego civility at the slightest hint of danger, and this reveals just how dangerously thin our social fabric is. As much as we can blame society for our problems, at the end of the day, we are society, and therefore only we can change it. I do not intend to instill in those of you watching a sense of despair, because despair fixes nothing. It only makes things worse. Rather, it's my intention to use what tiny reach I have to point out the problems I see and encourage you to try to find solutions. And having said all that, I will end on a quote from Polish writer Stanisław Jeździelec. "All is in the hands of man. Therefore, you should wash them often." This has been Arkin, and thank you for watching. The next video will be about how this virus has affected and will affect international politics. I will go over China and the UN, the fall of democracy in Hungary, and the potential collapse of the European Union. If you want to see that and whatever else I decide to excrete onto this godforsaken site, subscribe and leave a comment. Thanks for watching.